Hi everyone, I'm Scott. Thanks for clicking on my video. My channel is called Cineram and I talk about films and other bits of audiovisual entertainment that interest me and I've done so for a while. And there's one particular creator that I'd like to talk about in this video right now. It's been 6 weeks since the actor Charisma Carpenter, who played Cordelia on Buffy the Vampire Slayer and its spin-off series Angel, posted on social media about her mistreatment at the hands of those series' creator, Joss Whedon. I have enthusiastically endorsed Joss Whedon and his work multiple times on my channel over the years. And when I learned about this stuff, I didn't want to believe that it was true. In 2017, his ex-wife talked about some unpleasant things about him, and I was just like, well, this is his ex-wife. There's bad blood between them. She's clearly got an axe to grind. Joss Whedon's a decent dude. And then 3 years later, last summer, Ray Fisher, who was on Justice League, which Joss Whedon took over as director before its release, talked about some other unpleasant things that he did, some abusive behavior. A lot of this information that he conveyed was secondhand, I gather, and he hasn't talked about it in too much detail, but he did give an interesting statement to an interviewer that he spoke with about how the matter of credibility. Basically, he said, would it make sense for an actor who's only done a couple of projects and really doesn't have much of much pull in the industry, make a whole bunch of false accusations against some people that could easily be disproven? Or is it more likely that the people who are interested in protecting their careers would basically try and shout me down? Whenever Ray Fisher tweets about this, he always ends with A over E. I'm sorry, I should have written this out basically so I can show you. But basically, the mathematical sign for greater than can also be used to indicate is more important than. And Ray Fisher's point here is that accountability is more important than entertainment. That it's more important that the people who work in this business be treated well than to simply give an individual who doesn't treat his employees with respect, despite the fact that he's created some good work, some good films, some good television series. I was a fan of Joss Whedon for a long time at this point. I started watching his series Buffy during its 4th season, which would have been, I think, fall of 1999 or the early 2000. Not really sure about that, but it's been over 20 years. And during its 5th and 6th season, I became a hardcore Joss Whedon fan. I got caught up in all the old episodes when he had new series debut, such as Firefly and Dollhouse. I watched all that very enthusiastically. I've seen each one of his feature films in the theater, some multiple times. So, quite frankly, I didn't want to believe that this was true about him. I didn't want to believe that this guy who's very creative, very smart, and seemingly humble and self-deprecating could actually be like someone who actually enjoys treating people with cruelty, which is the message that we've gotten, at least from one guy. Jose Molina was a writer on Firefly, and he described an occasion in which Joss Whedon made someone cry on his staff and actually laughed about it and enjoyed it. Dude's got a very big brain, as evidenced by his large forehead. He puts it to good use in writing stories with really interesting character development and dramatic revelations and twists and surprises. I've been delighted by almost everything that he's done. But now I have to come to terms with the fact that he is a really bad guy. And, it's still hard for me to accept this, despite everything. Since Charisma Carpenter spoke up about the way that he treated her when they were making Angel, a lot of other people that Joss Whedon, who worked with Joss Whedon amongst this cast, Amber Benson, who played Tara, Michelle Trachtenberg, who played Dawn, Sarah Michelle Gellar played Buffy, Claire Kramer, Eliza Dushku, James Marsters, who played Spike, Danny Strong, Adam Bush, Tom Lenk, David Boreanaz, who played Angel, Amy Acker, who not only appeared on a couple of TV shows, but also played the lead in his Shakespeare film, Much Ado About Nothing. Yeah, I got his Emma Caulfield, who played Anya. Anthony Stewart Head, who played Giles. James Leary, who played Clem. A lot of these actors have actually worked with Joss Whedon on multiple projects. And what surprised me most is that even after Ray Fisher spoke about his misbehavior, I'm like, well, you know, I mean, maybe this was just like an isolated occasion. I mean, Joss Whedon is probably under a lot of pressure. He could have not taken the job of directing Justice League, you know, but once he did, he's in charge of a $300 million property for a huge company. And maybe the pressure just got to him. Maybe he just started, you know, acting angrily, whatever. But as it turns out, this has been going on for a long time. Amber Benson, who played Tara, talked about how Buffy, going back all the way to Buffy, was a toxic environment to work in. And if you have earned the ire of Tara, you know you done fucked up, seriously. You know, it's difficult for me to think about that show now in terms of the joy that I felt when I watched those episodes. Some of the best episodes of TV that I've ever seen. In fact, I devoted an entire video once to my favorite episode of Buffy, and many other videos. I've been singing Joss Whedon's praises to the high heavens, and you know, I just can't do that anymore. Since I've talked so enthusiastically about him, I felt I had to sort of address this in a video, like, and, you know, just sort of make up for that. And although I've made a lot of videos about him, saying how great he is, I'm not going to delete them, but instead I've changed the settings on each one of them to unlisted, and I've also grouped them all into a single playlist. So if you're interested, if any of you are interested in watching any of those old videos where I talk about his films and his TV shows, you still can. There's a link in the description below that you can follow in order to look at those. But I wanted to, you know, just give my thoughts first about this before you go and look at those videos in which I say, oh, Joss Whedon, he's the best thing ever. You should know how I feel about it now currently. One of the episodes, the episode basically that I devoted a whole video to, was called The Body. It was in Joss Whedon's, the 5th season of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. The episode was written and directed by Joss Whedon, and it involved grief. It involved the death of a loved one, and you know, the hours and mundane tasks that need to be performed when a loved one has just passed away very suddenly. And it's just sort of startling to me that a person as smart as Joss Whedon, someone with the skills and the sensitivity to create a great work of art like that, could turn out to be such a horrible person. It's very dispiriting. And I've had to take a lot of time and do a lot of reading and listening to other people's thoughts to sort of, before I could sort of work out what I was going to say. There's actually one person who hasn't really spoken about this. No, I'm sorry. She has, but she said she didn't have any kind of bad experience with him, and that's Amy Acker, who played the lead, like I said, Much Ado About Nothing. She's excellent in that film. And she's worked with him on 2 other TV series, and yet nothing ever really... nothing ever negative happened with them. But, yeah, like I said, I don't have anything really original to say. I'm angry about, you know, all this. I posted about it once I learned what happened with Charisma Carpenter, once I learned about it. And I sort of lamented the fact that I had been revering this guy for so many years. And a friend of mine wrote back to me and said, you know, you really shouldn't blame yourself because you didn't know, you know. It's not like I've ever worked with the guy before, you know. And what I was really angry about is the fact that not only did Joss Whedon behave in a way that's just totally inexcusable, but that the people he worked for didn't do anything about it. That's sort of been Ray Fisher's point. The people, executives at the Warner Brothers studio, and Warner Media, the whole corporation, must have known about this, but Joss Whedon is someone that they felt they had to protect, which is why they dismissed the claims about his behavior, and why they're trying to shut Ray Fisher down and make him look like he isn't credible. Because Joss Whedon is someone that they want to, they don't want to throw him under the bus, or, each other, in terms of taking responsibility. Yeah. So, like I said, I've talked about Joss Whedon a lot on my channel. I've talked about, his work with a lot of enthusiasm, and I just can't do that anymore. And I wanted to address that in a video. And I'm sure a lot of you have already read about, his misbehavior, his abusive behavior, the cruelty in which he's treated other people. I'm still not really aware of the full scope. I've never worked for the guy. I've never met him. I certainly am not a victim here. Not the people that suffered under his tutelage, excuse me, his in his capacity as a boss, basically, they're the ones who should be sympathized with. It puzzled me that when I learned about this, about his treatment of actors, particularly the women, why so many of them would work for him again and again and again. Like I said, Amy Ackers worked with him on 3 different projects. Summer Glau went from Firefly over to Dollhouse. Gina Torres went from Firefly to Angel as it was wrapping up. And I also wondered about Colby Smulders as well, because she must be, close with Allison Hannigan. She hadn't worked with Joss Whedon before the Avengers, but she must have heard something about him from Allison Hannigan before she worked on the Avengers. And it was curious to me that they would keep working with him on project after project, even if they had first-hand knowledge of just what a bastard he was. But one thing that Charisma Carpenter talked about in her post was how, at the time, when he was basically disparaging her and ridiculing her, and making her pregnancy seem like it was going to be such a hassle for the show to deal with. She basically said that she was the primary breadwinner in her family. She's a young mother. And she needed to keep working. And so she kept her big trap shut about what was going on and didn't speak up about it until after Ray Fisher did. And I got to figure that that's kind of the same reason why a lot of these people ended up working with him, ended up accepting jobs with Joss Whedon. Because they need to keep working. No matter how much success an actor has, I gather that the majority of them feel like, they need to keep working. They need to keep earning a living. And, having a regular gig on a TV series is a really good gig for an actor, because you could be working for years and getting that income and getting those residuals. Speaking of residuals, a lot of people say, don't watch Joss Whedon's work anymore. Don't buy his DVDs, don't stream his shows, anything like that, because you don't want to be contributing to an abusive person financially, same way that Kevin Spacey's basically been canceled, and Woody Allen, can't get another movie made, things like that. But someone else pointed out that, hey, Joss Whedon earns money from his shows that are already over and done with, but so do the actors that worked on it, and the writers, and other people worked very hard on those shows who didn't treat their employees with any kind of cruelty, who are good people, and they deserve their residuals. They deserve to earn money from them. So it really comes down to a personal choice, I think. If you can live with, a Kevin Spacey movie, if you can watch a movie with him in it and not be bothered by it, then, that's up to you. And if you can watch a Joss Whedon show or Joss Whedon film, such as one of the Avengers movies, without being bothered by the fact that he was the guy who wrote the dialogue and directed and ran the whole show, and maybe he didn't treat every person with respect during those productions, then that's kind of up to you, you know. He has a new series coming out on HBO next month. It's called The Nevers, and a few months ago I was really excited to see a new Joss Whedon show because it's been years since Dollhouse. And I have to admit, I'm still tempted to look at it, just because of how, you know, talented of a writer Joss Whedon is. I'm not sure what his, you know, how many of the episodes he directed himself, whether or not he worked closely with the productions. He probably did, you know, because that's just how he's worked over the years. But as for, you know, telling everybody, you have to check out The Nevers, it's the new Joss Whedon show, I'm not doing that anymore. You know, like I said, I just want everyone to know that despite my feelings about it in the past, I'm not blind to what's going on and the revelations about him that have come out in the past few months, over the past year. It's really dispiriting, and I really wish that I could just still enjoy his work, but in all good conscience, I can't really endorse it anymore. And I'm angry and sad about that, really. Like I said, if you want to watch any of my previous videos about Joss Whedon, which I, you know, talk about him very joyfully, you're welcome to do so. I've made them all unlisted, but there's a link below in the description so you can take a look at them if you feel like it. Thanks very much for watching. Speaking of directors, I wanted to get started on a new director series this year. Over the course of this year, I wanted to watch 30 movies by a writer-director who treated his cast, especially the women, with the utmost respect and dignity. Alfred Hitchcock. Yeah, he's dead now, so it's not like his career can be canceled. You know, he's gone. And his, but his, you know, a lot of films of his are classics, and many of them that I haven't seen. So I'm going to be taking a look at about 30 films from his filmography and making a video about each of them. Hopefully I'll be doing one a week. So that's my plan for right now. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you again real soon, I hope.